Tonight, the oldest attacker in a brutal assault at a St. John's high school says he's sorry. That story, plus Doug Snellgrove gets an early release. Why a sexual assault survivor says that decision has her questioning the justice system.
The province's 1.6-kilometer school busing rule is now over.
This year, for the first time, I'm proud to say that every single K-12 student in our province can have a spot on a bus to get to their zone school where busing services exist.
I'm Heather Gillis, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
The 2025 Canada Games is less than 1 year away, but the field and the track and the training facility are all ahead of schedule.
It's nice to be able to report ahead the story that things are going well and that we are ahead of schedule and we're meeting our milestones.
I'm Jeremy Eaton, and I'll tell you about it later.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We're a slightly later show this week due to the Paralympic Games in Paris. We begin tonight with news from the courts. The only adult charged in the brutal attack of a St. John's high school student told the court today he deeply regrets his role. The 2023 assault left a 16-year-old critically injured and led to attempted murder charges against 5 teens. They all pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, and as Here and Now's Malone Mullen reports, the oldest of the attackers now says he's sorry.
Tyler Greening was old enough to know better when he and several other teens bludgeoned a student at Prince of Wales Collegiate last year. He told the judge earlier today just as much, saying he was filled with regret and shame and embarrassed about his involvement. But he also made it clear that he didn't partake in the brutal violence, telling the court he turned and ran when the group pulled out weapons to use on their victim. Greening apologized to the victim's family, and the school community for the role he played driving the other attackers to the school to assault their target. "I was stunned, terrified at what I just saw," he said. "I froze instantly. The only thing I could think was, why in God's name was I there?" Greening also said he considered suicide in the months following the attack after members of the public sent his family threats. He told the judge he truly hated himself, but was now making progress to grow as a person. Greening's lawyer asked the judge to sentence his client to house arrest, followed by a lengthy probation of 2 to 3 years. The Crown is asking for 18 to 24 months in prison for aggravated assault. The 4 other assailants in the attack have all been sentenced to 1.5 to 2 years in juvenile detention. Greening will learn his sentence in November. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, an advocate and sexual assault survivor is speaking out about the early release of former RNC officer Doug Snellgrove. Snellgrove was convicted in 2021 of sexually assaulting a woman while on duty. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but spent more than 2 years of that living at home while on bail. And then last week, the Parole Board of Canada released him 11 months early. The Parole Board cited his good behavior and said he was a low risk to reoffend. Ashley McDonald says Snellgrove's release leads survivors to question the justice system.
There's definitely a question about what the justice system looks like and if it actually is doing what we want. We don't have a lot of avenues as survivors on how to handle things. It's you go to the justice system or you don't. And so when the justice system says, okay, yeah, you're either guilty or not guilty, you're guilty, okay, then you go to jail. This incarceration is the answer here. And then the person doesn't get incarcerated. There's just like a feeling of like, well, what's the point?
Well, a portion of the Outer Ring Road was closed shortly before 5 o'clock this evening due to a motor vehicle collision. The RNC shut down the westbound lane between the Team Guzhou Highway and Thorburn Road, redirecting all traffic to the Guzhou Highway. No more information is known at this time. Starting tomorrow, many more students will be boarding the bus. The province has ended a controversial policy that excluded thousands of students from hopping aboard because they live too close to school. Here Now's Heather Gillis has this update.
You're going to see a lot more of these roll onto the roads tomorrow, and thousands more students will be lining up at the bus stop. It's because the province has officially ended its 1.6-kilometer rule.
This is a game changer for students and families alike.
The rule used to mean that students had to live more than a mile from school to get the bus. Government started phasing that out last year, with 4,000 more students boarding the bus. Premier Andrew Furey says this year that number will almost triple. 11,000 more students are now eligible.
This year, for the first time, I'm proud to say that every single K-12 student in our province can have a spot on a bus to get to their zone school where busing services exist.
For years, the province's bus policy has created a barrier for parents, one the Premier says he's not on board with.
And the 1.6-kilometer rule was a nuisance, an irritant, and a real issue for families trying to get their children to school.
We want the bus! We want the bus!
The province has to spend $20 million to make it happen, adding 45 additional buses to the mix and more drivers, too. It's more business for Evan Bursey, who owns one of the province's biggest bus services.
For us, that means we've had to place 62 new buses, including our spares. It means we had to hire 65 new staff, which puts our fleet at 130 buses with 140 staff. Almost a double in size from one year to next.
Meanwhile, Bursey says he's happy to see the 1.6-kilometer policy go, and he's predicting families will be happy too. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, meanwhile, as students head back to school, the RNC is asking parents and guardians to take the time to speak with their children about online safety. Police suggest families should set digital guidelines and teach young people about responsibility when using their phone or computer.
When we learn to drive a vehicle, this is a big machine. It can be life-changing, and we don't just walk into that and say, here's the keys, you're on your way. There's a process of accountability and education, and it's time. It's over a period of time. It's not just like today is your day, you're in the driver's seat. And that should be the same way we treat phones, because these devices have the ability to change our lives if not treated with responsibility and accountability. There needs to be a process of education and also an open dialogue. Let's not make this something that's shrouded in secrecy. For example, one of the cases we see recently is the sharing of photos, and then what we call with sextortion, where they're saying, if you don't give us money, we're going to share this photo with your whole contact list. So in that situation, a child is essentially feels like they're in too deep and they're embarrassed. They don't know what to do, and it's very, very important that there's a relationship and open dialogue there to understand that no matter what happens, you can come to me as a parent. This is traumatic, and what happens is these networks, these crime networks who are using false identities and fake accounts, they do so to victimize specific pockets of our community. And in this case, on these applications like Snapchat and Instagram, it is our young people. And they're looking to build relationships and gain their trust, posing as, whatever they see will work. We at the RNC have seen the cases come forward around, sextortion, the sharing of photos, intimate images, the building of relationships with false identities, and another case where, fake identities or essentially accounts that don't even, they're more global, maybe even American, and they're speaking to our young people and enforcing the concept that it's okay to harm yourself and so on. It's extremely alarming activity, and it's so important to be open in dialogue, ensure that you understand what activity is going on with your young people on these devices, gaming devices, cell phones, computers, tablets. These are all devices that can quickly change a child's life, can result in trauma if they engage with anybody looking to take advantage of them in this sense. And so, have protections in place, educate, create awareness, and work together to get through these years of their life.
Well, we've been following how local food banks and charity groups are beefing up support in anticipation of a busy and costly back-to-school season. Each September, Bridges to Hope stocks up on backpacks full of supplies for students in need, and this year they're standing by with more bags than ever.
We have been running this Bag to School program for a bit over 10 years now. And it basically just makes sure that the families we serve are able to send their children back to school with all the supplies that they need for the school year. We don't serve any particular demographic. We try to keep the program as low barrier as possible, so folks can just self-refer. You know, if they're feeling like they need some assistance, we always encourage them to reach out. The need over the last couple of years has been increasing pretty dramatically. And we knew that coming into this year, so we actually were able to double our capacity. In previous years, we have supported 350 students, and this year we were able actually to do 700. Folks sign up either online, over the phone, or in person. We take the information for each student, so we get their name, we get what school they're going to, and what grade they're going to. So then that way we can make sure that each bag is packed specific to the child. So for example, you know, a child going to grade 4 at one school might have a different school supply list than grade 4 at another school. So we just try to keep things as personalized as possible, so that we know our support is as effective as it can be.
As you can see, work is well underway here at the Canada Games Legacy facility. The turf is down, the track is coming down, and the project, well, it's ahead of schedule. Now, if this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
So this turf actually comes in big, large bags, and it's just like carpet. So you roll it out like a carpet, and then there's a bunch of material that gets put onto the top. As you can see, there's some black rubberized pellet material. If you look out, you can see the lines down the pitch right now. We just have the crew here from Turf Masters working on finalizing touches and doing final checks and balances before we have our FIFA Quality Pro certifier come in to certify the pitch. So they do a fairly intensive overview of the pitch. They'll do a full survey, make sure that everything is within allowable tolerances and according with FIFA regulations. And upon completion, we get an actual certificate stating that this field is indeed FIFA Quality Pro certified, and that certificate will then go inside the building. Progress is going really, really well. You can see there's lots of staff milling about. We're hard at work on doing our exterior finishes right now. Masons are hard to work on putting a block in place, and we're getting ready to start our siding within the next week. So trackside is also in really, really great shape right now. We have our rubberized asphalt surface down. We just did our deficiency walkthrough yesterday. A different crew has now flown in, and they're up there snapping lines and getting ready to paint the lines on the surface. So between the soccer field and the track and field, we're ahead of our September 30th deadline for both of these items to be completed. So we're really, really happy with the progress. It's amazing. It's an amazing surface. You can feel just by walking on it here. It's super nice. It's great under the feet. It's incredible to look at. It's fresh and clean. And just having something of this caliber here in this province, particularly being able to achieve the FIFA Quality Pro certification, being one of the only east of Montreal to be able to have that certification, I think that's a real feather in our cap here.
Yes, and it took a whole lot of work to transform this quiet field into the ultimate track and field center for the 2025 games. What a difference. This impressive before and after was captured by our CBC drone just behind CBC NL here in St. John's. And as you heard from Jeremy just then, you heard the interview, the construction transformation is all on schedule.
Amazing to see the difference that's just happening behind us here. Rain today, we've seen a lot of it, and there's a little bit more on the way, but to kind of set the stage for a beautiful couple of days, I'll have all the details coming up.
Ashley, I've been thinking back on the summer, and it really felt like just an incredible summer. I was off for 3 weeks, had a staycation, and it felt like every day was gorgeous. And you have some numbers on that, right?
Yes. So you would be absolutely right. In fact, it was record-breaking for a bunch of areas. Let's take a look at some of those numbers. So meteorological summer runs from June, July, and August. We're actually into meteorological fall at the moment. So over those past 3 months, you take those mean temperatures, and that temperature was record-breaking for a number of areas. Corner Brook, for example, 18.7 degrees. That was your temperature, your mean temperature this last couple of months, and that broke the record from 2022. Now that's noteworthy in itself because you had a record again in 2022 and then again in 2024. And then another area that is of note would be Daniels Harbor. So 15.5 degrees was the record. You broke that in 2022, 2023, and then again broke the record of 16 degrees in 2024. So if you think that the last couple of years have certainly been warmer, you would be absolutely right. So definitely seeing those warming temperatures pretty much across the board. We're seeing that in areas like Cartwright as well, even up across, like I said, portions of Labrador. So not so much today. Temperatures have certainly cooled down a little bit, especially up across the Big Land. 10 degrees where you topped out in Lab City, Cartwright. 18 today, but temperatures are definitely cooling down. Upper teens, low 20s, the story for most of the island as well. And we're seeing a cold front sweep through. That's what brought all that rain today, and some more showers happening in behind that front for the west coast. But for the most part after this, it looks like some pretty decent weather. But what you definitely noticed is the fact the lack of that humidity now. So down to 14 degrees in St. John's, feels more like 17. So just a tiny little bit of humidity, but we will say goodbye to that for a few days. But as we head towards the weekend, temperatures are going to start to warm up again, and we will see a bit of humidity move back in. Temperatures across Labrador down to about 18 degrees in Mary's Harbor right now, and then Corner Brook, you're sitting at 14 at the moment. So these temperatures are anywhere from 2 to about 9 degrees cooler than where they were sitting yesterday across the island, and the same thing up across Labrador, 1 to 6 degrees colder. And like I said, this trend over the next couple of days, or what we're going to see over the next couple of days, is this cooler air continue before we start to see some warmer air move in. So for tonight, chance of showers will continue up across portions of Labrador. Most of Labrador really will be seeing some cloud cover, and then a few showers certainly possible for the west coast of the island as well. Other than that, it's going to be fairly quiet. We should see some clearing as we get into Wednesday morning. Overall, temperatures will sit between 9 to 11 or 12 degrees tonight. Little breezy winds in the east. They'll be out of the west around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Chilly. Lab West, Lab City, just a couple of degrees above zero as your overnight lows tonight. Otherwise, between 7 and 10 degrees for the rest of the Big Land. And then as we look ahead to what we're going to see tomorrow, ridge of high pressure is going to start to dominate the weather picture. So although we may see some cloudy periods across the island through the day and maybe a few isolated showers, I do think tomorrow is going to be an absolutely beautiful day for the first day of school. For those of you that are heading out the door tomorrow morning, it might be a little chilly up across Labrador. Just you'll be sitting in, like I said, 2 to 9 degrees overnight tonight. So tomorrow morning will be a bit chilly, but the afternoon will turn out absolutely beautiful. And again, we should see some sunshine across the island as well. Temperatures for your daytime highs will sit in the mid to upper teens tomorrow. We're still looking at a bit of a breezy wind, though, out of the west, anywhere from about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. But overall, a pretty decent day. A few scattered showers, like I said, in the mix there. And Labrador, 15 to 19 degrees is your daytime highs. Winds either out of the northwest or southwest, again, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. But the summer heat will return again as we head towards the weekend, and that I will have all the details on in the long-range forecast a little later.
Well, some big changes for a lot of Newfoundland and Labrador families this week as they shake off the summer and begin some new routines. And one of those people is our very own Jen White, who is starting a brand new routine this week.
You're listening to The Morning Show on CBC Radio 1.
Over her 12-year career, she's been a reporter, an investigative journalist, a podcast creator, and a host of some CBC TV news programs. And now she's taking over as host of CBC Radio's St. John's Morning Show. Congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you.
So you're waking up early now, very early.
Very early.
How is that?
It's better than I imagined it would be. Funny fact is that I've never been a morning person, but here we are hosting the morning show. But I've had lots of training from my kiddos the past 3 years. So Winnie is 3, Benny is 1. They like to wake up at crazy times. And while I was on mat leave in the past year with Ben, there were some spectacular sunrises that I saw that I wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise. So I really started appreciating the mornings, and there's lots of coffee to get us through, even though this morning was 3 a.m.
Wow. Yeah. That's early, yeah. A lot of sunrises, though. That is a nice way of thinking about it, is that you get to see all the beautiful sunrises every morning. And I touched on some of this in the intro, but can you tell us more about your career as a journalist?
Well, I got a postgraduate degree in broadcast journalism at what's now Toronto Metropolitan University. Then I worked in Toronto for a year with a music magazine called Chart Magazine before coming home. St. John's has always been home for me, so left the big city, came back. I worked at VOCM. I was on the radio there for a while. Then I went to Rogers Television. I was on Out of the Fog for a while. And then I made my way here, Carolyn, with you at CBC St. John's. So it's been a great 12 years. I've worked with CBC Investigates. I've done special projects as a producer, including things like This Is My Story. And also, it's just been so much fun. And then I was producing the morning show before. Now I'm hosting it. But I did get a lot of experience when I did my podcast 1 in 6. Right. So that podcast about fertility issues.
Yeah, that was an excellent podcast. That was your own personal journey of going through the IVF treatment. So you've really done a lot here at CBC when you think about it.
I've done I know it's more than a dozen jobs. I've started to lose track of how many exactly it is, but there are a few jobs upstairs that I haven't done, Carolyn. So it's nice that I finally get to sit in the big chair here and do this one.
And what is the appeal for you of taking over as host of the St. John's Morning Show?
It's been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember to be a host, and especially of the morning show. I've kind of decided quietly a while ago that this would be my next dream gig. So even once I got the gig, I started telling some of my friends, they said, like, Jen, back in high school, you always dreamed of being a host. Like, this is crazy that this is happening. So it's just really surreal. And I'm really excited to share mornings with everybody.
Yeah, what can listeners expect from you as the new host?
Well, I like to think that I want to cover a broad spectrum of stories. I want to bring you the important news of the day, obviously. Want to get you the information that you need to get your day going. But I'm also kind of quirky. I like to have fun, so I'm hoping that we can also share in the lighter stories, because there's got to be that good balance there, right? In the mornings, you don't want to be hit over the head with a lot of hard news, and there's a lot of fun stuff happening on the Avalon that I hope to bring to listeners. I almost said viewers because we're here.
There will be a lot of adjustments, I'm sure, that you'll have to make, but I've been listening to you as you're getting ready for this job, and you sound great. Jen, congratulations once again on this new job.
Carolyn, thank you so much. And you did train me in originally for the TV hosting stuff, so thank you for that, and I hope we get to do more of this in the future.
Me too.
My grandfathers and my father and my uncles worked in the mine. And my husband's father and his grandfathers and his uncles worked in the mine. Mining is in our blood, and we've been here our entire lives.
Well, coming up, we're digging deep into the history of the Bell Island miners through the lens of an internationally acclaimed photographer who documented them. That special report is just ahead. The people of Belle Island are reflecting on a moment from 71 years ago when a world-famous photographer came to town. Yusuf Karsh photographed the biggest names of the 20th century, including movie stars, world leaders, and scientists. And in 1953, he photographed the men who worked in the mining industry on Belle Island. CBC producer Mike Rossiter and video producer Mike Sims brings us this special report.
I have a trivia question for you. What does Winston Churchill, Audrey Hepburn, and the miners of Belle Island all have in common? I actually can't give you that much time to answer or look it up. I've got to catch this boat. But the answer is they all had their picture taken by world-famous Canadian photographer Yusuf Karsh.
Karsh was a young refugee that arrived in Canada in 1923, actually New Year's Eve of 1923, escaping the Armenian genocide. And he was sponsored by his uncle, George Nakash, which was also a photographer in Sherbrooke, Quebec. His uncle needed help at his studio, and then he just discovered a passion about it and decided that's what he wanted to be in life. He had a very particular style and an aesthetic that was very personal to him that actually made his photograph almost instantly recognized around the world. But it's important to know that he did a lot more than just the portraits of the famous. He did industrial portraits, he did city portraits, he did like all of kind of assignments across Canada and in the States and in Europe. I think that's basically what moved him. He really wanted to give back to the world.
During his illustrious career, Yusuf Karsh recorded over 370,000 negatives. His work can be seen all over the world in museums and galleries, including in London at the National Portrait Gallery. You could also see his work here at the Belle Island Museum.
Certainly, the most famous mine in Newfoundland is the Dominion Steel and Coal Corporation's Wabana operation on Belle Island. This is the only submarine-type iron mine in the world. Over 2,000 men work here up to 3 miles from shore and 1,350 feet below the ships that pass overhead.
The mines closed in 1966. People moved away in droves. The Belle Island of 2024 is built out of resilience. I taught school here for 33 years.
Wow.
We raised our children here. We've been here our entire life. So Belle Island is home. But my grandfathers and my father and my uncles worked in the mine. And my husband's father and his grandfathers and his uncles worked in the mine. Mining is in our blood, and we've been here our entire lives.
Karsh photographed Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa. But to me, the most important person he photographed was Tom Tremlett from the Valley, who happens to be my grandfather. The miners are a family, and they have to take care of each other. You know, it's dangerous work. When you're underground, if that hole wasn't drilled properly, then the people packing the iron ore, they were in danger. If it wasn't packed properly, the blasters and then the scalers, you know, it was a snowball effect. Everybody had to do their job properly So everybody had to watch out for each other and make sure the next person was going to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was an accountability for that, right? When you look at these photographs, mining was hard work. It was difficult physically, mentally, but you look at all these faces and you see them smiling. You see kindness, and you see a gentleness. And I don't know how they did that. You know, how did they work so hard and come out of the mine with a smile and still have that gentle quality about them, you know? Because that's what I think about when I think about my grandfather, his gentleness. I don't know if he raised his voice in my life, you know? I don't know if my father would say the same thing, but hey.
He would treat you the same way he would treat a US president or a prime minister. You can see in his notebooks, he took the names of most of the miners that he photographed. And not only the names, he wrote down their ages, where they were born, like if they had children, how many years they were working with the company. When you were with him in his studio or being photographed, you were the most important person in the world for him.
At the end of his career, Yusuf Karsh went through all of his photos and negatives and prints and selected 500 of them, the ones that meant the most to him. One of those ones was of this guy, Billy Parsons.
Our mining song is called Wabana, You're a Corker. Wabana is the name of our town, and it's an indigenous word, and it means place where the light first shines. Corker is an Irish term, and it means somebody who really knows what they're doing. And they would sing it, and it goes like this. Ye men that works down in the cave, your courage must be more than brave. To work the mines beneath the waves, Wabana, you're a corker. And that's what they would sing as they worked.
I have a love of photography, and I love, you know, seeing photos blown up like this and all that sort of thing. Tell me how you feel when you look at a photograph like that. Take your time, it's all good.
When I look at that picture, when I was younger, I used to see my grandfather. He's 47 on that. When I look at that picture now, I see my sons, who are in their 30s, and I see my daughters, and I can't help but compare and think about the life he and my grandmother lived, and think about the life that my children have, you know? When I look at that picture, I'm not in this beautiful museum anymore. That picture brings me back to the tiny house in the valley, in the kitchen with the daybed, and the only sounds you can hear, well, you can hear the wind blowing off the ocean and the kettle whistling on back of the oil stove. I'm sweating because the heat was sweltering in that kitchen, and I can see my grandfather lying back on the daybed and one arm behind his head, and I can see Nan sitting beside him with the rosary beads. So it's not just a picture. You know, it's a conduit, and it transports me to another place and another time. And I just feel, I guess, the greatest sense of home.
4 large glue sticks. So look up here. The shelf is empty. Uh-oh, we'll have to go to another store then.
Yeah, after this store.
Well, just ahead, Colleen Connors, reporter, camera operator, and first-time kindergarten mom. Is your family bracing for the first day of school? We tag along as Colleen gets some advice on how to cope. Well, back to school isn't just a big step for students, it's a major milestone for many parents who are about to send their children off for the very first time. And one of those parents is our own Colleen Connors in Corner Brook. She's turning to other moms and experts for advice on how to best handle those first day jitters.
I started thinking about this day years ago. As a child, I loved back-to-school shopping. A new pencil case, new sneakers. There's nothing better. But today, it's shopping for the pinkest, sparkliest book bag you can find for my very bright, extroverted 5-year-old little girl. She's starting kindergarten, starting her school career, the biggest milestone in her life so far. Or is it? At first, it was the day I became a parent and brought this sweet little baby into the world. But then, there were her first words. Those first steps, the big belly laughs. Now it feels like this is it. The school supply lists, bus schedules, and trying to figure out how to get her name off the wait list for after-school care.
I remember just the other day, he was a newborn baby cradled in my arm, and now my arms are not big enough to, cradle him at all. I can barely take his torso, in my arms there. So yeah, I think this is definitely the start. I mean, don't blink now because we'll have missed it. So.
Katie's son Ben starts kindergarten in a couple of days. She spreads out all the supplies on her living room floor. We compare kids and fuss over the best lunch containers to put in his new Spider-Man book bag.
So I really noticed, even just this summer, like her height, we're up a size in clothes, and I find she's imagination is through the roof. Like, they are ready, but my goodness, they really aren't our babies anymore.
I think definitely their imagination has grown. You can see they're sort of maturing, and their intellect is growing, and they're ready to start. They're curious about words. Mommy, what does this say on the page? And they're starting to put together there's text on this page and it means something. But at the same time, that emotional regulation, the tantrums, the I want it this way and I want it right now, that instant gratification and the following of routines and the listening to instructions, that toddler side is still there. And it's, you know, it's this mixed mash, like what is it going to be like for them going to school?
Emotions aren't a bad thing, and I think we need to teach that right from the hop.
To put my back-to-school worries to rest, I reached out to an expert in this field, Vanessa, who talks all about co-regulation.
So when you hear about parents like me and yourself too, I mean, what do you have to say to a mom and going through this massive milestone that I'm approaching?
Yeah, I would recommend basically trying to keep your own fears at bay and talking through any fears or any questions your child may have. Like, give them the opportunity, because the important thing I guess about self-regulation and about co-regulation is giving children agency from birth onward, from the time they're able to communicate, and they are communicating with us from the time they're born. It's giving them kind of a say in what's going on in their lives and asking them, you know, what would work for them.
Are you excited? Yeah. Okay, let's go get your book bag.
Okay, so as we practice school drop-off, I am making her a part of all the decisions about her first day of kindergarten. And I know I'm not the only parent wiping away a tear or two, or up late the night before worried about the bus or the uneaten lunches.
Yeah, Mommy. Okay, Mommy help with the twisty part there.
Thanks, Mom.
All right.
But it's all going to work out just fine. She is going to thrive. And I'll learn to let go, just a little. For CBC, I'm Colleen Connors.
Well, speaking of bright young minds, a neighborhood in Charlottetown got creative this summer by building the ultimate golf course right in their own backyard. And what does any good golfer need? A clubhouse, of course.
Here we're at Massey Drive Chip Course. The kids around the neighborhood just wanted to get some fresh air and practice our golf game.
On the front lawn, we normally either build our golf course or play on it.
I don't ask, I just go over here and help them.
And is it nice?
Yes.
Why?
Because I love golfing with my friends. Now, as you can see, we're at the clubhouse, where a member is getting his clubs for a round of golf.
Here you go. The slogan is enjoy the Massey, I forget, again. Enjoy the Massey experience.
Have a good game! We built this golf course in our yard. Now we're on to hole number 1.
You just walk up a little bit and then you find the tee box. And then you hit from there.
I try to stay focused on the ball. I take one look at the hole and then I shoot.
The hole is where your ball goes in and then you're done of a hole.
We have 2 holes in the backyard and 2 holes in the front yard. This is hole 2.
What kind of ball are you using?
Titleist. Oh, just black and yellow balls.
Why do you use those instead of regular golf balls?
Because if you hit the house, it might break a window or something.
And so you haven't broken any windows yet?
This is hole 3. I love it because I kind of get a little angry when I don't make it in the hole, but I just keep trying. I tried one time and I got a hole in 1.
How did you feel then?
Happy. When I hit it perfectly, right on the sweet spot on the club, I feel like Tiger Woods on the PGA Tour that just won. This is the hole number 4, and we try to go over the bush. Instead of having a driver, we just have a wedge, or sand wedge, and it's just to practice.
It just feels good when you put it in the hole from far.
We have a few of the members at our driving range. You practice in it, you hit in it, and keep trying so you get better at golf. I've seen my game improve by practicing out here lots, and anytime on my free time, I want to be good at golf. My dad's really good at golf. I want to be as good as him.
org.
All right, well, time for a look at the long range. And today was a kind of gloomy, wet old day, but things are changing, right? It looks like everyone's in for some great weather for
at least for a couple days here and there. Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. Nice start to September.
Yes, all the kids going to school tomorrow in sunshine.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's very nice. But as we head into Thursday too, it also looks like we're going to see some pretty decent weather. Let's take a look at the map for you. So Wednesday evening is going to be clear, but we are looking at a little bit of a front moving through up across Labrador, which does look like it'll spark some showers into the afternoon or into the morning hours rather for the north coast as well as Lab West. And that will slowly inch further towards the coast. So you may see a few showers as well through central areas of Labrador through the day. But across the island, it is looking absolutely beautiful. Big ridge of high pressure, like I said, in place, which is going to keep things quiet. You may see some clouds here and there at times through the day, but overall, it's going to be a nice Nice day. Temperatures are going to start to warm up a little bit as well. So upper teens, low 20s, the story. A little bit breezy winds as well, with those winds gusting upwards of about 40 kilometers per hour. So just temperatures may feel a little cooler than that, but it is going to be beautiful. Up across Labrador, other than that chance of showers, your temperatures are also warming up. 25 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay through the afternoon. Nain, you'll have around 19 in Cartwright. You'll have around 23 degrees as your daytime high on Thursday. So into the evening hours and into Friday morning, we're still looking at cloud cover up across Labrador. Again, that ridge of high pressure keeping things beautiful across the island. So Friday is going to be another beautiful afternoon with some sunshine through the day, just some showers likely working in for just north to the northern portion of Labrador. But overall, again, another beautiful day. Some cooler temperatures, though, for the north coast. You'll only hover around 11 degrees for your Friday. Otherwise, upper teens, mid to mid 20s even in Lab West, and really warming up across the island as well. So mid to upper 20s expected. We're also going to see a bit of humidity move back in. It'll feel a little muggy, nowhere near it won't feel humid, but it will feel muggy through the day on Friday. Long range forecast as we head into Saturday, still looking pretty decent for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland. It'll be Sunday before we see the chance of some showers in the mix. But temperatures will drop a little bit as we head into Sunday, though. Your overnight lows still looking beautiful, 13 to 15 degrees overnight. For central Newfoundland, you are looking at your temperatures warming as well, so 25, 26 degrees as we get into Saturday. Sunday, still hanging into the 20s with a little bit more cloud cover for central, but western Newfoundland, same thing, similar temperatures as well, maybe a little cooler, but it is still going to be absolutely beautiful. For Labrador, you are looking at temperatures in the 20s as well. This is way above where you should be sitting this time of year with some sunshine, a little bit more cloud cover in Lab West, but overall, it's going to be beautiful. Our photo today, very dramatic shot here. This is Center Hill. Kevin O'Leary shared this shot with us, views of Bull Arm there. Not a shot we often see.
No, it's gorgeous. I love that landscape.
It is, yeah, it's one of my favorite areas, I'd say, for sure.
You're driving out the highway,
Yeah.
not too far outside St. John's, and
Yeah.
over by the Isthmus too.
That's the best.
Yeah,
when it's
love
not foggy, the Isthmus is one of the most beautiful areas to drive out of. Well, at least I think so anyway. But
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that shot. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, you can do that by sending them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. And that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Before we go, one quick thing. Do you know what time the sun sets?
You just told me
7:36. I just checked it online. Anyways.
It's getting darker.
It's getting darker earlier. Yeah. Oh, well. Okay. That's it for us. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.
Good night.